Hello, I'm going to try and make this as concise as possible. I tried to do it yesterday, I was rushing and it didn't work out. It didn't work out at all. So I'm going to show you something very simple, and it's just how I made my polymer clay buttons. I'm sure other people do it differently. I certainly didn't invent the technique, but this is just what I worked out myself. And yeah, so what you need is some black, preferably, because the mica powder looks best with a dark background. So yes, black polymer clay. This is Fimo Soft. As you can see, I've got a lovely lump of it here, and it is very squishy, so I just pinch off a bit, put it aside, and then what I'm going to do is roll it into a ball. And once you have a little sphere that is relatively, you might need to knead it a bit to get out any wrinkles and bits that you don't want. Let's see if I can get the light a bit better here. Oh, that's slightly better, isn't it? Yes, it is. Okay, so you roll it into a ball, and then you flatten that ball, and you make a rough button shape. Now, asymmetry is certainly your friend with this. You just want to get kind of an even thickness. If you want precise shaped buttons, then I suggest that you use a cutter. I like them wonky and wobbly. So as you can see, I've made it roughly uniform in thickness. It's still very flexy and soft. And then what I found as the best tool for making the holes is a toothpick, and that is because the toothpick is the perfect diameter. So, oh, there's a bit of fluff on my toothpick. Okay, so now you make your holes, and when you're making your holes, you do it very gently, roll it back and forth, and stick it all the way to the thickest part of the toothpick. Then do the other side, and you just want to roughly eyeball it. They don't have to be perfect, but it is important that you see my holes look lovely on this side. You turn it over, substantially less lovely. So you're just going to do the same on both sides, and that will help make it nice and flat, and the holes are the same size all the way through. Now, usually at this stage I would stick the button to my sheet pan for baking, but if I did that, the reflection would be pretty harsh for the camera. So I'm just going to stick it down here. Oh, looks like I already had some mica powder stuck to my finger. Yeah, so stuck it down to my presumably sheet pan. Obviously you wouldn't bake on a Pringles lid. Pringles lids are amazing for crafts though. So yes, at this stage you can apply texture or mica powder and then scratch in your texture later. So for this one I'm just going to use a sculpting tool. You certainly don't need sculpting tools for this. You can use anything to make impressions. Here I've got a pin that has like a diamond shape. I can make impressions with that. I can also make impressions with this, and I like to make lumps to make it even wonkier. And then I'm just going to make the top here very textured, and I'm going to leave the bottom fairly plain. Now you can see I've kind of squished that hole there. It's not quite so round anymore, but that's easily fixed. Now the next stage after I've applied the texture is I want to, sorry about all the reflections, I want to apply my mica powder. Now I am going to use this color. Mica powder is essentially eyeshadow. I haven't used eyeshadow for this, but I kind of assume you can. And I'm going to use a makeup applicator to apply my mica powder. This mica powder is sold for I think, what do you call it? Resin or other crafty things. But you also get it for like nail art. You can get very small pots of it and you only need a tiny bit, so that's like perfect. You can get all kinds of like metallic colors, and that's how I got the beautiful colors that I've showed in my previous video. This one's actually one of my favorites just now because it says it's brown copper, but it turns into this lovely green on the black rather. So here is the powder. I'm just going to take what's in the lid. Just going to get a tiny bit, and see how this makeup applicator is one of the smooth sponges, the kind that you use for like foundation. That's important, and that is because it'll help smooth out any like fingerprint textures that you've made, but it won't add any scratches into the clay. Now, if you were to use like a paintbrush or even your fingertip, the ridges of your fingertip will scratch to apply the powder. So yes, using something really soft and smooth is ideal. Now, I'm just going to apply it kind of in gentle circles. If any gets where it shouldn't, you can basically just pick it right back up with the applicator. It's very important to get around the edges because they can hide from you. Get a bit more on my applicator and get all around here. And you don't want to use too much because it'll just be wasted. So you're just basically applying whatever sticks. And as you can see, it's gone nice and smooth. And it looks kind of just like metal, doesn't it? It's absolutely beautiful. I didn't get any in that little crevasse. There we go. And that's basically it. So as I said, I would usually do this part while it's stuck to the pan that I'm going to bake it on. I can transfer this by just sliding something under it and moving the button. But yeah, that's basically it. And then you bake the clay for whatever your polymer clay advises. I usually do about 110 Celsius for 10 minutes. And after you bake it, it will look really dull depending on the mica powder that you used. And you'll be like, oh, that's disappointing because it doesn't look the way it looked when I put it in the oven. So what you're going to do next is just take some clear nail polish is what I use. And here, I'll show you a button that I did. Where are they? They've disappeared. Honestly, I do have buttons somewhere. Don't know what I've done with them, but they're here. Here we go. So here's one that I did in a similar style. And you can see before baking, and then it would get even more dull. But then after you apply a gloss varnish, such as clear nail polish, it just changes it, and it brings out all those little beautiful metallic highlights, and it just makes it absolutely stunning. So yeah, I think that, you know, the clear nail polish is good enough to be used in crafts, but I'm not sure how it would hold up to like something that was going to need to be put in the washing machine, for example. Like maybe on hats it would be fine if you're like hand washing them, but I think ideally you might want to put some kind of resin finish to really make it hard if you're going to be like putting these on something that's going to need to be put through a washing machine. I don't know. I've not experimented that far. But anyway, I also wanted to show you how I did, for example, this one where I've got the black bits. All I did was I use a needle So after I've applied the mica powder, before it's been baked, I can sketch in little designs like that. See? With a needle. Now this can be very, very tedious and very, very frustrating. You don't need to be a great artist, but you do need to have a lot of patience in order to even sketch in something that's just roughly botanical, like what I did here. It's no great work of art, but it does give the impression of a plant, right? Also, buttons don't need to be round. They can be any shape, so I've made this one kind of a triangle. But yeah, that's how I get that scratched effect, and then it gets baked like that and glazed or finished, varnished with the clear nail polish. Now another thing you can do is make textures, and something like this, they're just little tiny balls of clay. So this was all done before the mica powder, okay? So before the mica powder goes on, you just make your little textures, little lumps and bumps. So you can do little like snakes of clay and just stick them on in little wavy bits or whatever you want. I've even sculpted like little ladybirds. Very easy to do. Then when you apply the mica powder, obviously you're just being really gentle over the bumps, so you just don't smoosh them flat. And yeah, it's good to go. And then you bake it as normal and glaze it. The final thing I want to tell you is, ideally, before you varnish them, so after you've baked them, they've come out of the oven, you don't lift them from the pan until after you've varnished it. So ideally you're going to have a bit of like foil on your pan or whatever, so that you're not going to damage your pan. But yeah, if you leave them stuck to the pan, because they're still going to be naturally a bit stuck down, it makes it a lot easier to apply that nail polish because the button's not sliding all over the place. Alternatively, if you've picked up the button and forgotten to save yourself a little frustration, you can just use maybe a bit of blue tack on the back to hold it still while you apply the clear nail varnish. Bleh. Nail polish. Clear nail polish. Okay, so yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you today. And that is how you make these lovely buttons. And if you want to use multiple colors, I'm sure you can figure that out. But yeah, super simple, super easy, and relatively inexpensive.